I'll take you, it's like a roller coaster, but through the history as depicted here. I want to start in ancient times because US and UFOs have been observed over Russia for millennia. I would say definitely from about 900 AD. But we also have ancient depictions of what you can call ancient astronauts or paleocontacts, strange ships carved on rock surfaces. This is depictions in northern Russia where we have a lot of UFO sightings. This goes back also thousands of years ago. And this is very interesting. This is from ancient Kazakhstan. And I've seen similar depictions in other countries as well. If you ever go to Kazakhstan, do not miss this area. They have Nazca-like lines. And it's a very interesting, mysterious place that was actually studied by the Soviet secret UFO research program back in 1980s, actually 1979. And you can see some of the strange lines on the ground. It's in Central Asia. Just like in South America, you have unusual spheres out of nowhere. This is where my wife is from, and they didn't know the significance. Well, just like in South America, gigantic round spheres, nobody knows where they came about from. This is one from the Caucasus Mountains area, which is not Russia per se, but also recent development. This is something that I'll talk about later, but very unusual place in the Urals, where a strange robotic-like creature from the Russian legends, nevertheless, is said to exist. This is in the Ural Mountains too. This is an ancient abandoned city of Arkaim, very strange place. People just up and left, but if you look at the city, how it's depicted itself, I've seen similar places in Central Asia where there are stories of ancient aliens. This is something else that exists in the areas of Caucasus Mountains, unusual small structures built so well that you can destroy one today, but you cannot put it together. And it is said that the people, small people from the sea, came out and built it. This is very important. Ural Mountains, discoveries of nanotechnology-like materials. Something exploded 300,000 years ago. More people, some of the, in Crimea, where you had secret submarine base, there are frequent UFO sightings. Whether today or in 1950s, Chukotka, this is the closest part of Russian territory to the United States. They have powerful Russian aircraft units. UFOs have been sighted. There are strange clouds out of nowhere. And what's interesting is inside those clouds, they observed aircraft that was similar to ours, but it was really not from this earth. It was back in 89, I think, in 84. Interesting case. Well, it's very close to Alaska. So if they see anything in Alaska and they don't report, well, in Russia too. Again, I want to go back to the Sea of Okhotsk and Kuril Islands so that you when you watch the news, try to find out. You know, there are a lot of war games in the area. It's very unstable because North Korea is not far. Japan has its claim on the islands and so forth. Excuse me, but they all know that things are happening in that area. In 1979, I have reports from the Soviet Naval Counterintelligence. In some of the regions of the Pacific Ocean, they don't want to name exactly the same object, exactly separating the same way. 26 years later, you know. I talk today about strange rays that come from UFOs, but they're solid. So some of the airplanes that try to fly by did not make it because they're solid rays, very unusual, coming from UFOs. Few cases. Some of the areas over Mongolia, which nobody talks a lot about, but you should, Gobi Desert. I don't want to go into what they do in Chinese Mongolia, but in the Soviet-controlled Mongolia, they had seen very interesting UFO cases, military observers. This was this gentleman who was the top gun Soviet in World War II who sent me information about UFOs and USOs. This must have been 26, 28 years ago. And he had a lot. So Russian-Chechen wars, now we're in the modern times, so to say. Fierce battles, very, very, I don't want to say, but there are no good wars. but a lot of people were killed, a lot of people were lost, but at the same time, they had intense UFO observations of the battlefields. Very unusual. Historical, 1967, some military people and civilian researchers find a way to get on Soviet television, join hands, appeal to the population to send them in UFO reports. Hundreds of thousands of reports start coming in. Less than a month later, or even sooner, other military, they have orders from the Communist Party, top command, this is shut down, no more. But there was a time in the Soviet history when on television there was an appeal to study UFOs from the military and from scientists. This has not happened anywhere else. And it was very interesting, the reports they received. This was the person who kind of quashed it down, so we will not spend too much time with him. You know, some of the reports, again, 1960s, 1970s, UFO photos, and I'm sure you see a lot of the military stuff, but at the same time, we're not sure. Maybe are objects that you cannot describe, like Bashkiria. It's a godforsaken place, but they have UFOs there, not far from the Ural Mountains, for years. Very interesting place. I repeat some of the pictures. I just want to, I don't have that many, not as many as I want to have, but this is something that was filmed by people throughout the Soviet history, different areas. This was Kapustin Yar. Soldiers made observations, semi-sphere, disk down below, a lower part, and a ray coming down. That's what it says. And that's what in 1980s. 1985, a UFO was pulling a train along. He was playing with the train.